Darkness clung to the walls like a curse, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. I moved cautiously through the abandoned corridors of an ancient space hulk drifting in the void of the warp. My name is Captain Varian Kor, and my squad and I were on a mission sanctioned by the Inquisition itself. The hulk was an enormous derelict, a graveyard of forgotten vessels fused by the warp's malevolent touch. It was said that once a ship entered the warp, it was never the same again. The currents of unreality twisted and morphed the very fabric of reality, leaving a twisted, nightmarish amalgamation of metal and flesh in its wake. Our objective was simple: investigate the hulk, purge any heretical presence, and retrieve any valuable artifacts that could be of use to the Imperium. But as we delved deeper into the shadows, it became clear that we were not alone. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, playing tricks on my mind. I could swear I heard whispers, the ghostly echoes of long-lost souls trapped in the warp. My bolter was gripped tightly in my hands, and my senses were on high alert. The warp was known for driving men mad, and I could not afford to succumb to its insidious influence. As we ventured further into the heart of the hulk, the air became colder, and the oppressive darkness seemed to close in around us. We stumbled upon a chamber, its entrance adorned with strange runes and symbols that pulsed with otherworldly energy. My squad exchanged nervous glances, but duty compelled us forward. The chamber was a vast cavern, a cathedral of madness. The walls were lined with grotesque statues and twisted mockeries of the Emperor's angels. The air was heavy with an unnatural silence that sent shivers down my spine. At the far end of the chamber, an altar stood, and upon it rested a book bound in human flesh and written in blood. This was no ordinary artifact. This was a tome of forbidden knowledge. As I approached the altar, the runes on the floor began to glow, and the statues seemed to stir. I ordered my squad to form a defensive perimeter, but it was too late. The statues came to life, their eyes glowing with malevolence. The warp had birthed demons into our reality. The battle that ensued was a whirlwind of chaos and terror. The demons moved with unnatural speed, their forms shifting and contorting in ways that defied the laws of physics. My squad fought valiantly, but one by one they fell to the otherworldly onslaught. I could feel the warp tugging at my sanity, threatening to pull me into its abyss. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide, I raised my bolter and unleashed a barrage of holy fire upon the demons. They screamed in agony, but their otherworldly resilience seemed unyielding. It was then that a voice, ancient and malevolent, echoed in my mind. "Captain Kor," it whispered, "you cannot escape the inevitability of the warp. Embrace the darkness, and all shall be revealed." I gritted my teeth, resisting the insidious temptation that clawed at the edges of my consciousness. The book on the altar beckoned to me, its pages whispering forbidden secrets. With a surge of determination, I hurled a frag grenade at the altar, hoping to destroy the source of the demonic incursion. The explosion rocked the chamber, sending shrapnel and warp-tainted energies in all directions. The statues crumbled, and the demons wailed in agony as they were banished back to the warp. But the victory was bittersweet, for I knew that the taint of the warp had left its mark on me. As I stumbled out of the chamber, the hulk itself seemed to groan and shudder. The walls pulsed with an unholy energy, and the whispers in my mind grew louder. I could feel the warp seeping into my very soul, twisting and distorting my perception of reality. I emerged into the corridors, my armor battered and stained with the blood of the fallen. The darkness no longer felt like a mere absence of light. It felt alive, a malevolent force that sought to consume everything in its path. I knew that I could not escape the clutches of the warp, that its influence would linger long after I left the haunted hulk. As I made my way back to the extraction point, the shadows seemed to dance and writhe around me. The voices in my mind whispered secrets that I dared not comprehend. The warp had claimed a part of me, and I could not shake the feeling that something ancient and malevolent now lurked within the recesses of my soul. I am Captain Varian Kor, and I carry the scars of the warp. The line between sanity and madness has blurred, and the haunted whispers of the Hulk will forever echo in the recesses of my mind. The Inquisition may celebrate our victory, but the true horror lies not in the demons we faced, but in the darkness that now dwells within me. In the darkest corners of the Imperium, where shadows clung to secrets like a shroud, Inquisitor Adela Ravenna pursued the whispers of heresy that slithered through the halls of power. The heart of the Imperial Inquisition was a labyrinth of deceit, and Ravenna's unyielding gaze sought to expose the dark secrets that festered within. Assigned to investigate the high-ranking echelons of the Administratum, Ravenna delved into the labyrinthine archives of the hive world Secundus Prime. The air within the dimly lit halls was heavy with the scent of ancient parchment and the distant hum of machinery. The vastness of the records mirrored the sprawl of the hive, a city that reached into the heavens, its foundations lost in the abyss below. As Ravenna pored over the dusty tomes, she discovered a pattern, a thread of corruption that wove through the highest levels of bureaucracy. Whispers of forbidden pacts and clandestine dealings reached her ears. The very foundations of the Imperium seemed tainted, and the Inquisitor's pursuit intensified. The trail led her to a secluded chamber deep within the Administratum's archives. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the towering shelves of forbidden knowledge. Ravenna, accompanied only by her ever-loyal acolyte, entered the dimly lit chamber, her silhouette a fleeting specter against the towering stacks of parchment. In the center of the room stood a lectern adorned with an ancient grimoire, its pages bound in flesh and inked with the blood of the heretical. Ravenna, driven by an unquenchable thirst for truth, opened the tome. As she deciphered the blasphemous text, a chill gripped her heart. The secrets within the grimoire unveiled a hidden cabal within the highest ranks of the Administratum. A shadowy assembly that had struck unholy bargains to maintain the Imperium's veneer of order. The names of revered figures were stained with treachery, and the very bureaucracy meant to safeguard humanity had succumbed to the tendrils of the warp. A whisper echoed in the chamber, a disembodied voice that seemed to resonate from the very pages of the grimoire. "Inquisitor Ravenna, you tread on paths darker than you can fathom," it murmured, sending shivers down her spine. Unfazed, Ravenna continued her quest. Her investigation led her to the underbelly of Secundus Prime, where the destitute and forgotten languished in squalor. Beneath the hive's towering spires, she discovered a clandestine cult that worshipped the warp in the shadows, their rituals obscured by the perpetual gloom. The cultists, clad in tattered robes, recoiled at the intrusion of the Inquisitor and her acolyte. In the flickering candlelight, their eyes gleamed with an unholy fervor. As Ravenna confronted them, the cultists chanted in a forbidden tongue, invoking powers beyond mortal comprehension. The air thickened with malevolence as warp energies coalesced, twisting reality itself. Nightmarish entities materialized, their forms shifting between dimensions. The cultists' faces contorted with madness, advanced with unholy zeal, their bodies twisted by the touch of the warp. A battle of wills ensued as Ravenna confronted the warp-spawned abominations. Bolter rounds tore through the twisted entities, banishing them back to the immaterial realm. But the cultists' malevolent chants persisted, threatening to ensnare the Inquisitor's mind in the suffocating grip of the warp. As Ravenna fought to maintain her sanity, her acolyte, overwhelmed by the psychic onslaught, fell to his knees, clutching his head in torment. The Inquisitor's determination wavered, but with a surge of indomitable will, she pressed on, her psychic resilience a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. The cult's leader, a figure shrouded in a tattered cloak, stepped forward. His voice resonated with unnatural resonance as he spoke of forbidden knowledge and the inevitability of chaos consuming the Imperium. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp around him as he invoked the power of the warp. Ravenna, fueled by righteous fury, confronted the cult leader in a psychic duel that transcended the material realm. The air crackled with unseen energies as the Inquisitor fought to banish the warp-touched presence. With a final incantation, she shattered the cult leader's psychic defenses, sending a shockwave that reverberated through the warp. The chamber fell silent, the cultists defeated, and the warp energies dissipated like dissipating shadows. Ravenna, battered but unbroken, stood amidst the remnants of her struggle. The dark secrets she had uncovered were like a poison seeping through the veins of the Imperium. As she emerged from the depths of Secundus Prime, the weight of her discoveries pressed upon Ravenna's shoulders. The Inquisition, meant to safeguard the Imperium, was entwined in a web of corruption and heresy. The labyrinth of deceit extended far beyond Secundus Prime, reaching into the very heart of the Imperium. Inquisitor Adela Ravenna, burdened with the knowledge of the Imperium's dark secrets, knew that her battle against the hidden forces within would be unending. The shadows clung to the corridors of power, and as she walked through the gates of the Administratum, she vowed to continue her relentless pursuit of truth, even if it meant confronting the silent horrors lurking within the heart of the Imperium. In the forsaken reaches of the Maelstrom, where the warp's influence twisted reality into a nightmarish tapestry, a derelict space hulk named Forsaken Reckoning drifted in the ethereal currents. On board, a group of heretics had sought refuge, their dark rituals intertwining with the malevolent energies of the warp. As the Maelstrom churned with chaotic fervor, the Forsaken Reckoning became a vessel of haunted souls, a floating mausoleum haunted by the ghosts of traitors. Inquisitor Helia Stern, a relentless pursuer of heresy, received distress signals emanating from the space hulk. Driven by a duty to purge the Imperium of corruption, she boarded her vessel, the Purgation's Wrath, and set a course for the Forsaken Reckoning. Little did she know that she was venturing into the heart of a haunting that transcended the boundaries of the material realm. As Inquisitor Stern's boots met the metallic surface of the Forsaken Reckoning, an oppressive chill hung in the air. The lifeless corridors whispered with the echoes of betrayal, and the walls seemed to bleed the shadows of the Forsaken. The Inquisitor, her senses honed by years of confronting the warp's malevolence, felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her. The Forsaken Reckoning, once a vessel of war, now resembled a macabre museum of heretical artifacts. Tattered banners adorned with blasphemous symbols hung in desolation, and corrupted icons defied the sanctity of the Imperial Aquila. The air itself seemed to thrum with an otherworldly resonance, a chorus of the damned that resonated with the pulse of the warp. As Inquisitor Stern delved deeper into the haunted space hulk, she encountered apparitions of the past, ghostly echoes of heretics consumed by the warp's embrace. Their tormented visages flickered in and out of existence, eternally trapped between the material and immaterial realms. The Inquisitor pressed on, her steps echoing through the desolate corridors. In the heart of the Forsaken Reckoning, Inquisitor Stern discovered a chamber bathed in an unholy glow. A vortex of warp energy pulsed at its center, and within its spiraling depths, the ghosts of traitors materialized. The heretics, once condemned to the annals of history, now clawed at the veil of reality, their spectral forms reaching for release. The leader of the heretics, a twisted figure clad in corrupted power armor, turned its gaze toward Inquisitor Stern. The apparition sneered, its voice a chorus of anguished whispers. "You dare intrude upon our sanctuary, Inquisitor? The warp has granted us eternal existence, and you shall join our legion of the Forsaken." Undeterred by the spectral menace, Inquisitor Stern raised her sanctified bolter, its barrels glowing with the purifying light of the Emperor. The heretic leader, now a wraith of defiance, unleashed a psychic onslaught. Visions of treachery and corruption flooded the Inquisitor's mind, but her indomitable will resisted the warp's insidious influence. The chamber erupted into a spectral battlefield, the warp's malevolence manifesting as ethereal flames and shadowy tendrils. Inquisitor Stern, her faith a beacon against the encroaching darkness, engaged in a psychic duel with the leader of the Forsaken. The air crackled with the clash of immaterial forces, each combatant struggling for dominance in the haunted realm. As the battle reached its zenith, Inquisitor Stern uttered the litany of banishment, a sacred incantation that resonated with the Emperor's divine wrath. The warp recoiled, and the heretic leader's spectral form convulsed with an otherworldly scream. The chamber quaked as the vortex of warp energy collapsed upon itself, consuming the Forsaken ghosts in its chaotic maw. In the aftermath, the Forsaken reckoning echoed with an eerie silence. The malevolent energies that once twisted the space, Hulk's corridors into a haunted labyrinth, dissipated. Inquisitor Stern, her armor scorched by the warp's touch, emerged from the haunted chamber, her eyes ablaze with the fervor of the righteous. The Purgation's wrath, now in orbit around the Forsaken reckoning, received a transmission from Inquisitor Stern. The ghosts of traitors have been banished, and the warp's influence on this accursed vessel has been purged. The Emperor's light prevails even in the darkest corners of the Maelstrom. As Inquisitor Stern's vessel departed from the haunted space hulk, the Forsaken reckoning remained adrift, its haunted corridors now silent. The ghosts of traitors denied their spectral sanctuary, vanished into the warp's abyss. The Maelstrom, ever tumultuous, continued its chaotic dance, but the Forsaken reckoning stood as a testament to the Imperium's unwavering resolve against the horrors that lurked within the warp. Inquisitor Stern, her duty fulfilled, gazed back at the Forsaken vessel one last time. The haunted space hulk, now a void-bound tomb, served as a grim reminder that even in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the Imperium's defenders would confront the spectral echoes of heresy and banish them with the Emperor's divine retribution. In the cold void of the Nebula Nexus, where stars were but distant pinpricks in the eternal blackness, an ancient tome lay hidden, concealed within the confines of a derelict space, Hulk drifting silently through the cosmic abyss. This tome, known as the Forbidden Book of Malcador, whispered of ancient prophecies that foretold a malevolent force lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed upon the unsuspecting galaxy. Inquisitor Serafina Voss, a seasoned investigator of the Ordo Malleus, had intercepted fragmented transmissions hinting at the existence of the Forbidden Tome. The Inquisitor, driven by a relentless pursuit of knowledge and a duty to safeguard the Imperium, set her course for Nebula Nexus. As the ancient space hulk came into view, its fractured hull adorned with the scars of countless battles, Serafina's ship navigated the treacherous debris that surrounded the derelict behemoth. Her retinue of acolytes, clad in the traditional black and gold of the Ordo Malleus, accompanied her on this perilous journey. The air within the space hulk was thick with an otherworldly stillness, and the only sound that echoed through the dimly lit corridors was the distant hum of the ship's engines. Serafina led her retinue through the labyrinthine passages, guided by the flickering light of her plasma torch. The Forbidden Book of Malcador was said to be concealed within the heart of the space hulk, guarded by spectral entities and obscured by ancient wards. As Serafina delved deeper into the derelict vessel, she felt the weight of unseen eyes watching her every move. Shadows seemed to dance on the periphery of her vision, and whispers, too faint to decipher, murmured in the emptiness. The retinue encountered arcane symbols etched into the walls, reminiscent of the warp's influence. The very structure of the space hulk seemed to warp and shift, defying the laws of physics. The acolytes, devout servants of the Imperium, crossed themselves as they pressed forward into the unknown. As they reached the central chamber, a vast vault with an air of profound sanctity, Seraphina beheld the forbidden book of Malcador resting on a dais adorned with long-forgotten Imperial iconography. The tome, bound in leather that seemed to absorb the feeble light, emanated an aura of forbidden knowledge that both beckoned and repelled. Seraphina, with a mixture of trepidation and determination, approached the tome. The acolytes formed a protective circle around her, their laser guns at the ready. As Seraphina opened the ancient pages, the air resonated with a distant hum, and the symbols on the walls glowed with eldritch light. The prophecies within the forbidden book of Malcador spoke of a cosmic entity known as the Void-born Malevolence, a primordial force that sought to consume entire worlds and plunge them into eternal darkness. The tome foretold of a ritual that could awaken this malevolent force, and Nebula Nexus was identified as a focal point for the ritual's completion. A chill ran down Seraphina's spine as she comprehended the gravity of the revelation. The whispers in the shadows grew more pronounced, and the air seemed to thicken with an ominous energy. She knew that she had stumbled upon not just a forbidden tome, but a harbinger of cosmic doom. Determined to prevent the cataclysm foretold in the prophecies, Seraphina initiated a vox communication with the Imperial fleet. Her voice echoed through the void as she conveyed the urgency of the situation. The Imperium, ever vigilant against the threats that lurked in the warp, responded swiftly, dispatching a fleet to Nebula Nexus to intercept any impending ritual. As the Imperial fleet approached Nebula Nexus, a ripple in the fabric of reality heralded the awakening of the void-born malevolence. Dark tendrils of energy snaked through the void, converging on the ancient space hulk. The malevolent force sought to manifest itself, fueled by the ritual inscribed in the forbidden book of Malcador. In the central chamber, Seraphina and her retinue could feel the space hulk shudder as if the very stars were being extinguished. The air crackled with energy, and the symbols on the walls pulsed with an unnatural glow. The spectral entities, guardians of the forbidden book, materialized as ethereal warriors, their eyes ablaze with an otherworldly fire. The ensuing battle between the acolytes and the spectral guardians was a clash of spiritual forces. Bolter fire and ethereal blades clashed in the surreal darkness of the space hulk. The whispers in the shadows crescendoed into haunting wails as the two forces clashed in a struggle that transcended the material realm. Seraphina, undeterred by the chaos unfolding around her, continued to read the prophecies. The ritual's completion required a sacrifice, an offering of psychic energy that would open a rift into the warp, allowing the void-born malevolence to breach into real space. The acolytes, fighting against the spectral guardians, realized the gravity of the situation. With grim determination, they rallied around Seraphina, creating a defensive perimeter to ensure she could complete the ritual and expose the malevolent force's vulnerability. As the ritual neared its culmination, the space hulk quaked violently, and the whispers coalesced into a cacophony of inhuman voices. The rift in the warp opened, and the void-born malevolence began to manifest, a swirling maelstrom of darkness that threatened to engulf the Nebula Nexus. In the final moments, Seraphina uttered a prayer to the God Emperor, channeling the psychic energy of her retinue into the ritual. The forbidden book of Malcador glowed with an intensity that bordered on blinding, and the malevolent force recoiled as the psychic sacrifice disrupted its manifestation. The Imperial fleet, arriving at Nebula Nexus, unleashed a barrage of cyclonic torpedoes and psychic nullification beams. The malevolent force denied its entry into real space, writhed in agony as it was banished back into the warp. The void returned to its cold, silent state, and the Nebula Nexus was spared from the cosmic horror foretold in the forbidden prophecies. Seraphina and her retinue, battered but victorious, emerged from the space hulk. The forbidden book of Malcador, its pages now scorched and unreadable, was sealed within an arcane stasis field. The Inquisitor knew that the knowledge within the tome was too dangerous to be allowed to persist. As the Imperial fleet secured Nebula Nexus, Seraphina contemplated the grim reality that the prophecies had revealed. The galaxy, teetering on the precipice of darkness, would require eternal vigilance against the cosmic forces that sought to plunge it into the abyss. The forbidden book of Malcador, now a relic of averted doom, was entrusted to the most secure archives of the Inquisition. Its secrets, locked away, served as a reminder that even in the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium, some knowledge was better left undiscovered. The echoes of Nebula Nexus lingered in the void, a testament to the ever-present threats that lurked in the unseen corners of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. In the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium, where the Imperium, the realm of the warp, encroaches upon the material universe, there exist tales whispered in hushed tones among the denizens of the galaxy. Stories of horrors beyond mortal comprehension, of entities that lurk in the shadows, waiting to ensnare unsuspecting souls in their web of madness and despair. Among these tales, none are more chilling than that of the Warp's Whisper, a haunting legend that speaks of a malevolent presence that preys upon the minds of those who dare to venture too close to the edge of the Imperium. It was in the desolate world of Stygian Ninth that the Warp's Whisper first made its presence known. Nestled on the fringes of Imperial space, Stygian Ninth was a world shrouded in darkness, its surface scarred by millennia of war and strife. Few dared to tread upon its barren soil, for tales of strange occurrences and unexplained disappearances had long plagued the planet. Among the brave, or perhaps foolish, souls who ventured to Stygian Ninth was a squad of Astra Militarum soldiers led by the seasoned veteran Sergeant Marcus Draven. Tasked with investigating reports of heretical cult activity on the planet's surface, Draven and his men descended upon Stygian Ninth with grim determination, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. As they journeyed deeper into the heart of the planet's twisted landscape, the squad soon found themselves beset by strange visions and unsettling whispers that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of reality itself. Shadows danced at the corners of their vision, and the air grew thick with an oppressive sense of dread. But it was not until they reached the ruins of an ancient temple, long forgotten by the passage of time, that the true horror of Stygian Ninth revealed itself. Within the crumbling walls of the temple, they discovered a gateway, a tear in the fabric of reality that led directly into the warp itself. Driven by a combination of curiosity and desperation, Draven and his men ventured through the gateway, their minds assailed by the cacophony of madness that awaited them on the other side. In the swirling maelstrom of the Imperium, they were confronted by visions of their deepest fears and darkest desires, twisted and distorted by the malevolent influence of the warp. But it was the warp's whisper itself that proved to be the greatest threat of all, a disembodied voice that echoed through the void, promising power and knowledge beyond imagining to those who would heed its call. With each whispered word, it wormed its way into the minds of Draven and his men, twisting their thoughts and warping their perceptions until they were little more than puppets dancing to its tune. As the squad descended further into madness, they found themselves stalked by nightmarish entities that hungered for their souls, a grotesque menagerie of demons and abominations that sought to drag them screaming into the depths of the warp. But even in the face of such unspeakable horrors, Draven refused to yield. With every ounce of his willpower, he fought to resist the siren song of the warp's whisper, rallying his men to stand firm against the encroaching darkness. In a final, desperate gambit, Draven hurled himself at the source of the warp's whisper, a pulsating mass of swirling energy that loomed before them like a monstrous specter. With a defiant roar, he plunged his blade into the heart of the entity, shattering its hold over the minds of his men and banishing it back into the warp from whence it came. As the echoes of their battle faded into the void, Draven and his men emerged from the depths of Stygian Nining, their bodies battered and their spirits scarred by the horrors they had endured. But though they had faced the darkest depths of the Imperium and emerged victorious, they knew that the warp's whisper would always linger in the shadows, waiting to ensnare the unwary in its web of madness and despair. And as they gazed out upon the stars, they vowed to remain ever vigilant, for in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the horrors of the warp were never far away.